Let's talk about insulin's partner, glucagon. Now, glucagon sounds like glucose because it's involved in the regulation of glucose. So let's just talk about what this hormone is, because I don't want to neglect this very important hormone, glucagon, simply because I'm emphasizing this insulin in almost 50% of my videos. But let's take a look at this. So insulin has a job of pushing the blood sugar down. Okay, it takes the sugar out of the blood to regulate the blood sugar. So it gets triggered by a high carb diet. And that's what insulin does. So it's constantly pushing things down. It's doing other things as well, like storing fat and storing glucose as glycogen. But it's helping you regulate blood sugars by lowering it to a normal level, right? Then you have this hormone glucagon that's pushing it up. So it's countering it. And both of these hormones work together to keep your blood sugar at normal. So glucagon is kind of like a counter-regulatory hormone to prevent hypoglycemia, because if you have a massive amount of carbohydrate and massive amounts of insulin, that could push this thing way down here to a dangerous level where your blood sugar, there's nothing left and your body can't have that. So this is one of the hormones that will help bring it back up. So what does it do? It mobilizes glycogen, which is stored sugar, okay, to glucose in your liver. So it's kind of taking all this stored sugar in your liver and making it available to you to be able to bring this back up. So that's one thing it does. Number two, it activates gluconeogenesis. This is the formation of new sugar. So it'll turn amino acids from your diet and fat into sugar or glucose for two reasons. Number one, to keep this blood sugar up to a normal level, but also if you're not eating any sugar and certain parts of your body, like the red blood cell, parts of the eye, parts of the brain, parts of the kidney, need glucose. They can't use ketones. They can't use fatty acids. So a certain part of our body needs glucose, but don't think you need to consume glucose, because this hormone can turn non-carbohydrate material into glucose, okay? So your body will make as much glucose as it needs because of this hormone. There's other hormones that will help, but this is one that also helps. Will also enhance lipolysis. This is fat burning. It'll help to mobilize fat, especially after you've burned up all the sugar and you used up all the stored glucose, and let's say you're not eating. Glucagon comes in there and mobilizes the fat tissue and releases the fatty acids into the tissues to feed them, as well as into the liver to make ketones. Or your cells can use fatty acids directly. Okay, so now what is insulin is triggered by? It's triggered by carbs, higher amounts of protein like amino acids. So if you eat a high protein meal, okay, so that can trigger insulin. Frequent eating and MSG can trigger insulin. Glucagon is triggered by low glucose, okay, low blood sugar, as in a ketogenic diet, okay? It can also be triggered by amino acids in the blood. All right, now look at this. Amino acids, protein, can be triggered by this hormone and this hormone. But what's the difference between the two hormones? Well, if you have a high protein meal, very large amounts of protein, okay, you're gonna get more of an insulin spike. If you have a moderate amount of protein or adequate amount of protein, then this guy is being triggered. But just realize that this will be triggered to some degree with any type of protein, because every time you eat anything, you will trigger insulin. So this is why protein is kind of interesting, because you have both of these hormones will be triggered. The point is that if you keep your protein moderate, it's going to be more of this being triggered. And even if there's some insulin being triggered, this hormone will kind of keep it in check so it doesn't become out of control. All right, then we have exercise. Exercise will trigger glucagon. What type of exercise? It's the high intensity type, or something that's exhausting, or something that's a very high pulse rate type exercise that'll trigger glucagon, and also other hormones like growth hormone. So obviously we need both of these mechanisms in place. What I would recommend is stick with the low carb, moderate protein, routine exercise to keep this in normal. Avoid the excess carbs. avoid the high protein diets, avoid the frequent eating, and also the MSG. So if you're enjoying my content, which I hope you are, and you're applying this knowledge to your health, and you have a success, I would really appreciate you sharing your success story. So click the link down below to my website where you can upload your success story so you can help inspire others.